there's a specific kind of exhaustion that nobody talks about. It doesn't come from working too hard or sleeping too little. It comes from thinking too much about things that most people barely notice. A sentence someone said 3 days ago, a decision you already made but keep reopening. The meaning behind a pause in someone's voice. If your mind does this, if it refuses to skim the surface of anything, then what I'm about to say will feel uncomfortably familiar. People around you probably move through their day and let things go. But you don't let things go. You let things in. And once something is in, your mind turns it over, examines it from every angle, follows it down hallways that other people didn't even know existed. That's not a flaw, but it is a weight. Picture this. Someone makes a casual comment in a group conversation. Everyone laughs and moves on. But later that night, you're lying in bed, replaying the tone of it. Not because you're dramatic, not because you want to overthink it, but because your brain caught something. A flicker, a shift, a micro-expression. And now it won't stop asking what it meant. You didn't choose to replay it. Your mind decided it wasn't finished yet. And that's the part most people misunderstand about deep thinkers. They assume you're choosing to dwell, that if you really wanted to, you could just stop. But this isn't a choice. It's a processing style. Your brain doesn't skim, it scans. It doesn't simplify, it layers. And that layering is the reason you notice things other people miss, but it's also the reason your mind rarely feels quiet. The first layer of this is something psychologists sometimes call depth of processing. Most people take in information at a surface level. They register what happened. But your brain doesn't stop there. It immediately starts asking why it happened, what it connects to, what it could lead to, what it says about the person, the situation, or the pattern underneath. You don't just hear the sentence, you hear the architecture behind it. It's like reading the same page everyone else reads, but seeing footnotes they didn't know were there. But that's only part of it. There's a second layer that runs underneath all of this, and it has to do with your nervous system. Research on emotional processing suggests that people who think deeply often have a nervous system that responds more intensely to stimuli. Not just loud sounds or bright lights, but emotional stimuli. A change in someone's behavior, ambiguity in a text message, a situation that doesn't quite add up. Your nervous system treats these things the way a smoke detector treats smoke. It doesn't wait for a fire. It goes off at the first trace. So your mind starts working not because you want it to, but because your body already flagged something as unresolved. And here's where it gets deeper. Deep thinking is also tied to something called uncertainty intolerance. Your brain doesn't like open questions. It doesn't like gray areas. When something is unclear, someone's intention, the outcome of a decision, the meaning of an interaction, your mind will keep circling it, trying to close the loop. Not because you're anxious necessarily, but because leaving it open feels like leaving a door unlocked. Your brain wants resolution the way your lungs want air. And when it can't find resolution, it keeps searching, keeps building theories, keeps replaying the same moment with slightly different interpretations. This is also why decisions feel so heavy for you. Other people can choose a restaurant in 30 seconds, but for you, every option branches into consequences, into meanings, into what it says about what you want and who you are. It's not indecisiveness. It's that your mind automatically maps the full weight of each possibility. You're not stuck. You're processing at a depth that most people never reach. But the cost of that depth is that even small choices can feel dense. And this is the part most people miss entirely. Deep thinkers often carry a kind of invisible emotional labor. Because you're not just thinking about your own life, you're thinking about other people's lives too. You notice when someone's energy shifts. You catch the thing they didn't say. You hold space for details that nobody asked you to carry. And you do it instinctively. Not because you're trying to be a good person, but because your brain won't let you not notice. That's a form of emotional pattern recognition. And it can be beautiful. But it's also why you sometimes feel full before anyone else in the room even feels tired. The strange contradiction of being someone who thinks deeply about everything is that it makes you both incredibly perceptive and quietly overwhelmed. You see more. You understand more. You connect dots faster. But you also carry more. You feel the texture of things other people walk right past. Your inner world is vivid and complex and rich, but it's also loud. And sometimes the loudness isn't inspiring. Sometimes it's just heavy. And this is where honesty matters. Because deep thinking, when it's working for you, is a kind of superpower. But when it turns inward too often, when it becomes rumination instead of reflection, when it keeps you frozen instead of moving, when it convinces you that you need to figure everything out before you can rest, that's when the wait becomes something worth watching. Not because you're broken, but because even the most powerful minds need permission to set something down unfinished. You don't think too much because something is wrong with you. You think too much because your mind was built to go further than the surface. It was built to catch what others miss, to hold complexity, to sit with questions that don't have easy answers. That's not a defect. That's depth. And depth will always cost more energy than shallowness. But it will also always see more truth. The fact that your mind never stops searching doesn't mean it's broken. It means it's devoted to understanding. And in a world that rewards speed over depth, that kind of devotion is rarer than you think. So let me ask you this. Does your mind get louder when things are uncertain, or when things are too still? Leave that in the comments. And if this felt like something that described your inner world a little too well, the next thing worth understanding is what happens when this kind of thinking meets emotional memory. Specifically, why some people replay conversations in their head long after everyone else has forgotten them.